Ticket Machine is the official ticket broker of Spartan Nation. No matter what you need a ticket for, border to border, coast to coast, the Ticket Machine is your ticket source. So whether you need to get into the hottest concerts, the best sporting events, you want the best seats in the house, or you just want to get in the door, when you want to go to any event that requires a ticket, anywhere, border to border, coast to coast, it's always theticketmachine.com. Theticketmachine.com, 517-655-3201. Check it out today at theticketmachine.com.
Day press conference here, so just a couple notes before we get started here. Most of this class really has been committed for, I don't know, 6 months to a year and a half ago. So it's a class that's maintained its commitment. You know, with early signing this year is a little bit different situation, but I think it benefited Michigan State and benefited our class. You know, I think it's important to recognize they believed in us from the start. You know, coming off of last season, it was a difficult season, as we all understand, but I think due to our long-standing, basically, foundation of what we've been able to accomplish prior to and the culture here, they stayed with us. And I appreciate very, very much their trust in us as people and their trust in the overall health of this program. Class is full of state champions and players of the year, really across the board. They're very well recognized group of young men who've accomplished great things, not just on the football field, but in the classroom as well, and in their communities as well. So excited about that as well. They've been on campus numerous times. Some guys 10, 15 times. Some guys have seen 7 home games, that type of thing. So they've been people that we've sort of personally known. Our coaches have personally known them, and I've personally known them and their families for quite some time. And obviously they've been here last spring and in the summer as well. So top 20 class pretty much across the board, somewhere in, you know, whether it's 20, 17, 23, whatever it is, but outstanding group of football players, and again, well recognized across the nation. 9 offensive players, 11 defensive players, and they go across the board. You've got guys like Elijah Collins, who never came off the field, and there are other guys much like that, so they've played all over the place. Besides the majority of our class, we still have room for a couple guys. So we've signed 20. We may take a couple more, but there'll be specific guys relative to a defensive lineman probably. If you're out there listening, defensive lineman would be a great find right now. So we'll look forward to putting that out there a little bit. No drama today. I think everybody was in by, all paperwork was in by 10 o'clock this morning. A couple guys from California and Nevada sending them in the latest. Talked to every single one of our guys. They're thrilled, excited, celebrating today, really with their families and with their high schools across the country. And basically 1/3 of our class right now probably is, not probably, 1/3 of our class, or more than 1/3 of our class, 7 guys will enroll in January. So they'll get a head start on things, and they'll be in school here in 2.5 weeks. So, you know, time is coming. So again, another exciting time for them as they move through it. So what I thought we'd do is just sort of, I'd run through each guy, and then maybe stop if you have a specific question about that guy, or the recruitment of that guy. Then we'll continue on. It might take a couple minutes longer, but I think at least it's more informative maybe as we go through, rather than just trying to grab them all at the very end. So quarterback is the first guy up, Theo Day from Divine Child High School here, top-ranked quarterback in the state. Been recruiting Theo for a long time. Very athletic guy, big, 6'5", 212 pounds. I think he's an outstanding leader. He's very calm. He seems very calm in the practice field when we had him in camp, and he was dynamic in our camps. And when we went and watched him play in person, just as dynamic. He can throw the ball very effectively. Big arm, big talent, and is not afraid to run with it. I think really compares very favorably with Brian Lewerke in a lot of ways, the way he's gone about his business. So, any questions on Theo? Lead recruiter probably in that is Terrence Samuels, and then obviously Brad Salem had a great deal to do with that.
Mark, I had a MAC coach tell me that Theo Day reminds them a lot of Kirk Cousins, just the way he bloomed in his senior year even more, the way he throws the ball, spins it. He said he didn't know off the field, but just on the field, he thought very similar. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, big arm strength, great arm strength, and you know, when you look at his highlight film, it's just play after play of him putting the ball down the field. You know, the intermediate throws on target with a lot of velocity on it. the ability to run with the football when needed. Reminds me a lot of what the work he's done this year. So again, I think outstanding talent and an opportunity to come early in the process gives him a little bit of an advantage just in terms of trying to get on the ground and build a foundation from quarterback standpoint. Been on campus a lot, in the past, 9 months, or I guess about 9 months. Been on campus quite often, so he's a guy that I think knows what he's getting involved in, and again, very calm. Anybody else? Next guy, Trent Gillison, tight end. Trent played tight end. He also played defensive end. I know Coach Bowman will sort of wince when I say that, but he looked pretty good on defense too. But Mike Tressel, primary recruiter, Coach Bowman was very much involved in that. Trent's father is from Steubenville, Ohio, and actually played for Ken Manning way back when Ken was a high school coach. So there's some relationships there. Outstanding performer, 4-star player, guy that makes big plays. Played on a state championship team. Very gifted. Outstanding baseball player as well. Recruited baseball player. May be able to play baseball here. That avenue is open for him if they get him on the field. So I know Coach Boss will be excited about that as well. But dynamic person, big athlete, 2-time first team All-State, and another person. I think almost every one of these guys, or really every one of these guys, we targeted early in the process. When you could say at this time last year, hey, we've offered Trent Gillison or we've offered Theo Day, and then we go about trying to get that guy here, and we get the guys we want. That's the best thing you can say about a recruiting class. And I think we did that over and over. So questions on Trent?
Just going to have tight end is a position that's probably more complex than most. How quickly can a guy like that see the field if he's got to learn all the checks and all that stuff?
Well, that's coaching, I guess. Coach Bowman, and we managed to get Dawson on the field, Matt Dawson on the field some this year. We did not lose a tight end, but I think there's opportunities based on what he can do in his skill set. He runs very, very well. He catches the ball very well, and he's got power, and he's used to being at the point of attack. And I think a lot of times right now, when you look across the nation, you see tight ends, they're mismatched guys, and they're out of wide receiver, or they're moving in the slot a lot. He's been at the point of attack in a traditional tight end alignment, so I think that he's at least used to that. He's going to have to play against big people, much like himself, but I think that he does have a skill set to be able to do that.
Is with the tight end such an integral part of your offense? Is there any comparisons with him with any of the other guys that you've had in the past decade or so?
Oh, past decade. Makes me feel a little bit old, but I don't know, Bowles. Probably anything that you've got?
He's a lot bigger coming in to begin with than a lot of the other guys we've had in the past. He doesn't have to gain as much weight or get as much size, so he's maybe a little bit of ball than else.
And I think the one thing that you can see, Matt Sokol came here, he was a quarterback, and learned how to be a tight end. When Lyles came here, he was all over the place, quarterback, tailback, all these different positions. Matt Dawson was a traditional tight end, but I think that there's just a lot of opportunity with him being the athlete that he is. And we're going to put the best players on the field, and it's going to be a competitive situation, but he'll find his way on the field. I think he's a ball player. Doesn't come off the field for them. We'll go to the offensive line right now. First guy up, Dimitri Douglas, early enrollee. Really looked the part in our camp. We offered him coming out of camp after an impressive performance. Came into camp, I remember, I think he long jumped very, very well. He was 280 pounds. Can't remember how many times he put up 225, but it was right around 20 times for a high school guy going into his high school senior year. He ran very well, and he was a guy that we looked at possibly play any of those positions up front. Outstanding student, another player that plays for a very good program in Saline High School, and 6'4", 285, and I think that he's going to be an outstanding player for us as well. Questions? Nobody wants to talk about the offensive line. Okay, Jacob Isaiah from Vegas, Las Vegas, Bishop Gorman High School. His grandson, Bob Apiza, so he's got Spartan roots. He's got family in the area. There was an attraction to Michigan State very early in the process because of his background, his family's background in that area. His father, Salih, played at UCLA and in the NFL as well. Another guy, he committed this fall, but he was a guy that leaned this way throughout the process and has been able to be on campus quite a few times in the process. And I think sometimes that's the biggest thing. If you're able to get on campus 5 and 6 times over the course of your lifetime, good things usually happen. And that definitely happened. He'll play in the Under Armour game. He'll play in the game out west. I'm not sure which one, Ben.
Polynesian?
Polynesian. But he's an Under Armour All-American and outstanding player, 4-star player, I believe. But huge upside. Again, a guy can play any of the positions across the board up front. I think he can be a guard. He's athletic to be a center. Plays against great competition. As good a competition as there is in the country, really, as Bishop Gorman plays across the country at various high schools. Questions?
How do you pronounce it?
Jacob, Isaiah.
Isaiah?
Isaiah.
Isaiah.
Mark, you've been watching him for a long time. What's it like when you see some of these guys, after you've been in on them for a while, then they go out in their senior year, they're even better, which I think was the case with him and a number of these players, and how much has this class grown? I think he had, 14 or 15 commitments before this fall season started. And I think a lot of people believe that a lot of those guys took it up even more as a senior. Can you talk about his development and these other ones that you've seen for a long time?
Yeah, I think that our class, first of all, they're an outstanding group of young people and they're motivated. So we do. We watch their senior film and we track them as they go through their senior film, a 2-game highlight or a 2-game hit film showing everything that they do, good and bad. And then we watch further in the process. And I think that he's a guy that he just keeps coming. And that's really been a statement for this entire program if you look back in the 11 years. The guys that we brought here, they just keep coming. We've not had a great deal of attrition. Don't have a lot of players leaving the place. We don't have a lot of transfers that transfer in here. We've not had a lot of JC players. We've had guys blue-collar guys that have come in here and worked and learned our concepts and just kept pushing. And he'll be an outstanding player. He's extremely athletic and strong, very strong guy, and explosive. Very explosive for an offensive lineman. So we're looking forward to great things. James Zohamba. One of the top players in Georgia, one of the best offensive linemen in the nation, big guy. I think I could have curled up and took a nap in his shoe or I went on his home visit. It's a size 18 shoe. Big guy, 320 plus pounds, that I may be kind, 6'4", 6'5" guy. Had a knee injury at the end of the season, so he'll have to rehab that knee. But outstanding student. Played soccer and basketball early in his life, early in his athletic career, so he's got some athletic ability. Looks like he'll be a dominant offensive lineman for us as he moves forward. And I'll take some questions on James.
Mark, James expressed to us that the thing that really sold them, he could have stayed anywhere in the South, SEC, anywhere he wanted to, but the family, the way you guys recruited the entire family. Can you get into that? Because a lot of places recruit a kid. You guys recruit the entire family.
Well, I think, just like probably any place, it's not only the player that comes to school here, it's the entire family. And you have to have, I think, a circle of trust or a relationship that you can sit and talk to the family as you go through the process of their time here. You end up talking to their mom or their dad numerous times when there's celebrations or when there's tribulations. So I think that's something that we try and do in the process. Our coaches do an outstanding job getting to know everybody in the family, and I think most programs do that. But there's a sense of community here at Michigan State, and that really that's across the board. That's whether you're talking about our administration or our coaching staff or our players. There's a sense of community. Offensive line in general, I think we have 3 athletic guys that can play multiple positions there, and we really lose Brian Allen in our 2 deep, and so it's a good situation for these guys to be coming in. Running backs, Elijah Collins, top-ranked running back in the state from what we felt. Targeted very early in the process. We looked at Elijah and said, this is the guy we had to have. We passed on some other guys that tried to hold for him. We had some other guys that wanted to commit, and I just held firm saying that, hey, I think we can get this guy. We were very fortunate to do that. Played offense, defense, and special teams. Really didn't come off the field. Like what his mom says, he cut through the line there. He gets has great vision, sort of sets his feet and breaks left. So if you see him break left in the games coming up, that'll be always mom talking. But it's a great center of gravity, cutting ability. He's big, he's physical. He's got a very good understanding when he was here, and he talked running back play with our offense, with our running back coach coordinator Dave Warner. He's a guy that expresses himself very well and understands things very well. Primary recruiter Terrence Samuels and Dave Warner as well. We get our position coaches involved in that. And I think he plays against a high level of competition in U of D. And good student, good solid student, comes from a great program. And we're looking forward to him being here. Questions?
With Elijah and a number of these guys in the class, you see those targeted guys with multi-position ability and the ability to maybe play on either side of the ball, I guess. With him, do you see his future running back, or is it just kind of wait and see when he gets on campus with these guys?
No, I firmly see his future at running back. He'll come here and be a running back. He might play on special teams because of his versatility, but I don't see him playing defense. He's going to be a guy that's going to touch the ball for us. And again, when you go back and you watch senior film or you watch the highlights, the guy can play, make plays, run through tackles, and has big playability, and he's durable, and he's tough. He's tough, smart, and durable. We're very, very excited about him being a Spartan.
I'm just curious, with as big a name as Le'Veon has become, does that help you with running backs? Do guys want to come here and be like Le'Veon?
Well, it's not just Le'Veon Bell. It's every running back that's ever played here and been the featured guy. They've gone on and played in the NFL. So whether that's Javon Ringer or Le'Veon Bell or Edwin Baker or even Glenn Winston for a time, or whether it's Jeremy Langford, or whether the next guy coming out, when you're here at Michigan State, there's a reason we've won a lot of games. It's not all tied up in just what we do, it's who does it. And we've had very good players doing that, and they've been very, very, very good football players and productive. And I think they're seen on a higher level. So I think this guy has that opportunity to be one of those type guys. Good. Darius Jefferson, Mr. Football of the state of Michigan, captain of the Free Press Dream Team, led Muskegon to a 14-0 record and state title, rushed for more than 2,000 yards, passed for 1,200. We recruited Darius as an athlete way back last year when he wasn't playing as much quarterback. He played a little bit. We offered him as a linebacker. He has the ability to play linebacker. There's no question about that. Watching him perform this season, and I watched so much film on him as the season continued, Sheldon White and myself, so much film coming to me. I really felt like he was too good of an athlete and could play too many positions. Ran for 2,000 yards, as we said, so he's definitely an athlete playing at quarterback. Thought he could be a running back. Felt like we needed to take 2 running backs in this class. Felt like we needed to maybe take a quarterback and a half in this class. So he has the possibility of playing quarterback if that situation presents itself. He'll come in here as a tailback. If it runs out on him and on the offensive side of the ball, I know he can play on defense. He recruited in a lot of ways, much like Le'Veon Bell was. Le'Veon came here with the idea that if he's not a running back, he could be a great linebacker, punt returner, that type of thing. I think Darius fits into that. He's got great body lean. He's got very quick feet if you watch him on film. His running style is much like a tailback, runs through tackles, great hands. Guy touches the ball 220 times as a senior. He's used to handling the football. Gives you a run pass guy, gives you a wildcat guy. There's just so many different things that he can do as a football player. And we were very, very excited. He's another young man. We passed on some guys that had decommitted from other high-level programs that were very interested in coming to Michigan State in order to get this guy, maintain that Darius Jefferson would be an outstanding player here. He's an outstanding student, and he's got great leadership ability. Questions? Good.
With him, as a difference in comparisons to T.J. Duckett, in terms of what he did in high school versus what he can do at the college level, I guess. Again, like Elijah, same question. Do you kind of get him on campus first and then see where he fits best?
You know, he's coming as a tailback, and he'll be a tailback unless the numbers would present themselves with an injury or something at quarterback. I think he reminds me really, reminds me a lot of Troy Smith when I was at Ohio State. We took Troy Smith at the end of recruiting, the 17th or 18th or 19th or 20th guy, and said, well, he can be a tailback, he can maybe play wide receiver, he can maybe do this, he can maybe do that, but he ended up being a tremendous quarterback. But that's on him and that's on everybody else. But we're always going to play the best players, and I just think he's an extremely good football player, and I think he needs to touch the football. When you watch him on offense, he needs to touch the football. So right now he'll come in and touch that football at tailback, and I think that there's opportunity there for him to get involved pretty quickly. And again, an outstanding football player. He does so many different things that he can be accessible with anything on special teams or across the board.
Mark, with that quarterback ability and the versatility, are there opportunities to use him creatively when you have a guy like Brian Lewerke who has decent legs himself? Are there a guy like that?
Yeah, I think there's opportunities in the future. He's a guy's going to be a freshman, so he's got to learn the offense and everything, but he gives you an option dynamic in your offense if you ever want to do some of that. He's done it. He certainly could be a wildcat guy. He's done it. He has the ability to throw the football as a quarterback in high school, so you've got to figure that he can throw it some. And we've had great success here with guys that have played quarterback in high school and then come here and transition to other positions. Where there's been Cody White to some degree, but Tristan Jackson, when there's been Keyshawn Martin, those guys have all played wide receiver. They haven't been a running back, but this guy's a little bit more powerful. He's more polished in terms of running option and things of that nature. Mike Trust's the lead recruiter on him, and again, it just came back to watching film over and over and over and saying the guy's too good. And again, I think we recruit to need here, and there was a need to have a second tailback. There was a need to have a fifth quarterback. It gives you a guy that can immediately go in there and do some of the different things we see so many opposing quarterbacks do. During a scout team or something, if he's a redshirted freshman, and then you've got so many different things he can do on special teams, and then even as a defensive player, he can line up and do some different things. But that's way 2 years, 2.5 years down the line if things don't go well. I know that he can do that. But he's a very explosive player and gifted athlete. I think he's been very well coached. Toughness. Julian Major, wide receivers. We'll get into wide receivers. Julian is early enrollee, very athletic, very smooth player, great hands, catch the ball fluidly. Penn Hills High School over in Pittsburgh, which is another great program over there. Type of player that can really stretch the field. Another guy that was targeted early in the process and committed, I think, sometime early fall or late summer. So he's maintained his commitment throughout. He'll be here early. Questions? Parks Gissinger will get in the defensive line. Must have missed a guy. Chavez. Let's see here. Chavez Alexander is another wide receiver. He's a quarterback. Hold on, guys. Chavez, 3-year starting quarterback at Sandusky High School. He came to camp, we recruited him as a wide receiver here. Long jump, I think 10-6 at camp. Caught the ball very fluidly, made plays down the field. Gives you another guy that can throw it a little bit from the wide receiver position maybe, or run it. Was primarily a dual threat quarterback in high school. Was a Mr. Football finalist. I think he finished third maybe in the voting maybe. In Mr. Football in Ohio, Division III Offensive Player of the Year. He's a 4.125 grade point average guy. He's an engineering student. I think he's third or fourth in his class. He's an early enrollee. Again, another multifaceted athlete, big athletic, explosive, pretty much a little bit like Cody White in a lot of ways. Coming out of high school, I think Cody played much more wide receiver. Javez did not take a snap of wide receiver this year, but in camp, he certainly looked the part and he caught the ball very, very well. And we offered him coming out of camp with his 40 time and the things he was able to do. Questions? Talked about Julian Parks Kissinger, California, Chaminade Prep, another good program. Really was a young player. I mean, he just turned 17. I think he'll be 18 next August or something. Went out to watch him play in California. Coach Snyder, primary recruiter, along with Dave Warner. But Coach Snyder was out there and watched him. Very active, uses his hands very well. Has very good pass rushing abilities. He's got a big frame guy. He's going to grow. Weighs 235 or 240 right now. Played tight end, a defensive end. But I think he's a big, raw athlete that's going to be playing anywhere between 250 and 260, certainly, and another outstanding student in the classroom. Questions on Parks? Jacob Slade, first team All-State, played both offensive and defensive line, very athletic, high motor guy, 270-pound guy. Watched him in camp, very athletic, smooth, good punch. Great energy, attention to detail. Mike Tressel's recruiter. Ron Burton and Mark Snyder obviously involved in that as well. But I think he's an outstanding football player. Everywhere you go, when you go down to recruit in Ohio, certain guys that everybody talks about, he's one of them. So very, very excited that Jacob is a Spartan. Questions? Zac Slaves, twin brother. Two-time first-team all-conference, high motor defensive end, uses his hands very well, just like his brother. And really, when you watch them, they're very, very similar in terms of there's a little difference in weight, but as far as they're identical twins, so I guess there's not a lot of difference. Another set of twins that we've gotten here. We've got a lot of brothers playing on this team, a lot of different family members that have felt that it was right for their family to send two boys here. And we appreciate that. Plays very well at the point of attack. Again, plays for another great high school, Tangy High School, Columbus area.
Hey Mark, it looks like Jacob does real well on the offensive line also. You see him as a two-way guy. Sometimes you see that, you say that with linemen coming in, and I think Zach might have an interest in fullback also. Are these guys that can go either way? Well,
they play both ways in their program, but we see both as defensive players by nature of the numbers here. His high school coach, he keeps telling me would be an NFL offensive guard or something like that, offensive lineman, but he's a defensive player for us, and I think he'll be very, very good. I think he'll be very good, both of them. Jez Lord Boateng, very athletic, explosive player, 6'2", 210, runs track, huge upside because of his length and his athletic ability. Reminds me a little bit of Taiwan Jones in a lot of ways, a former linebacker here. Comes from another very good high school. Mark Crabtree has done a tremendous job coaching down there, has been there for quite a while. Mike Tressel's the recruiter, will play linebacker here, probably be a money linebacker. It probably reminds you of Tawan or Ed Davis, one of those type of guys. Big body guys that can strike you.
Mark, had an Ohio coach that I was asking him about mentioned he thought this was this year's Le'Veon Bell. That when you guys took Le'Veon Bell, he said people down here thought he was special, no one else did. Michigan State got a gem. He thinks this is the steal of your class. Do you agree with him?
We're going to find out. He's extremely athletic. He's big. He's 210 to 15 pounds. He's big and very athletic. When you watch him move, he doesn't play in sections. It's all smooth. And, very good player, and I think good family, very dynamic. So, Ed Warner, amen. Chase Klein, he's the Division III Defensive Player of the Year in Ohio. Linebacker, possible defensive end. He goes 6'3", plus, 227 pounds, almost 230, big physical, active player, 100 miles an hour, plays with a great sense of urgency. He's a great pass rusher. When he came to camp, you know, what you saw was a guy that could really use his hands well and escape and close on the ball carries, and that's what you see on the film. Will play a linebacker, probably the money linebacker, could play Mike as well. Could get big enough if he gets 250 or so, could be a defensive end for sure, could be a pass rushing defensive, a linebacker in our nickel package or our 30 package. So outstanding student as well, and again, I think he's a great football player, high motor guy. Questions? Ed Warner, Powell, very instinctive linebacker, just knows where to be on the football field and fits everything, plays square downhill, very powerful, athletic, firm, plays square, great knowledge of the game. Obviously his coach's son, Ed. Ed was a graduate assistant up here at Michigan State. His mom was a Spartan aide, so grandparents lived down the road in the Detroit area, so he's got connections here. They can go way back. I've known Ed for a very long time, his father. And I think he'll be an outstanding player. He can come early. Javez can come early as well. As I said, sorry guys, must be a defensive lineman. No such luck. Anyway, Steve Hale is his coach. Mike Tressel, primary recruiter, can come early. I just think, you know, the more you watch Ed, very physical. He reminds you a little bit of Joe Bocci in a lot of ways. How he's just downhill playing 100 miles an hour. Questions? Okay. Get into defensive backs. We'll finish up. Michael Dow, third Dow, to come here. Be unique to try and get all three of those guys on the field at once, maybe. He's played corner. He's played safety. Did a great job in camp here. He's got great foot scales and speed to play either position. He's got size. Could transition to an outside backer with his size if he gains another 20 pounds, 15, 20. He did very well in our camp. Judged the deep ball, had the ability to change direction, plays for an outstanding program in St. Ed, so they're going to play against some of the best competition in the nation. And great tackler, and I thought he was a great blitzer on the film as well. So he's a guy that's going to show up for us, I think, in a multitude of ways. But he'll come here as a safety right now, but very excited to have Michael.
The lineage of brothers, not just him, but the Allens, Bullis before them, the idea that a third would come and want to play for you, is that an affirmation of what the experiences guys are having, and how important is that when you see that?
Yeah, I think that is an affirmation. I tell them, you know, when you send a child one place, one of your children to a particular institution or school or wherever, and then you follow it with somebody else, and then you follow it again, I think there is affirmation that their sons are being treated consistently and fairly, and that, hey, they're either playing or they're not playing, that's on them, but they have opportunities and they're in a good situation and they're around good people. So we've been blessed with a lot of families putting their trust in us to coach their sons, and some of them more than once. And you know, for example, I think the Bullis, Byron will be a senior this next year, and I think Max came in 2010, so they've had almost 9 years of them playing here, so that's a statement.
Along those lines, and I'm going to ask you about this with the Slaves as well, but when you're recruiting brothers, when you already have those family ties that are established, how does that help, I guess, accelerate the recruiting process for you guys as coaches?
Well, you know, I always tell our players that we're recruiting, you know, to try and find the truth behind every curtain, you know, behind every program. Look deep into that program, look deep into our program, and try and find the truth. And we try and deal with the truth here. We do deal with the truth. But when you have a brother who's played here, they know the ups and the downs of the program. They know the positives, the negatives, but they do know the truth. So they know what they're getting into right from the start, and there's a sense of I don't know, there's a little bit of a sense of this is what it is, this is where you're going, this is the work you have to do. So it's pretty laid out for them, and I think that's a positive. And there are no surprises. So I think that's been a positive, and if every recruit out there can know what he's getting into when he gets to the school, I think he's a lot farther ahead. Kalen Gervin. Kalen's the #1 ranked player in the state of Michigan by a lot of the recruiting services, Free Press Dream Team, Under Armour All-American. He'll play in that game down there. He's an early enrollee. Really has all the makings of a great corner and skill set. He shows great change of direction. Can really roll over and flip his hips and come back to you. Makes very tight cuts, has the ability to flip his hips and run. I think he's an outstanding tackler. We offered him off a junior, when he was a junior. Another guy that we said, hey, let's try and get this guy. Had major visits that he went on across the country. I think that he's a guy that'll have an opportunity to play pretty quick. But I think he's a dynamic player and very excited to have him. Questions?
Is he a return guy too, potentially?
I don't think he's a return guy.
Not.
No.
Mark, to get a guy from Detroit like that, but also Cass Tech, given the events of the last 6 months, is that important for the program to go right back in there and have a guy of his caliber and pedigree from there?
Yeah, we've always been welcomed by Coach Wilcher into Cass Tech every year since we've ever been here, and they do a great job of turning out players, and he's done a great job with defensive backs. He's a defensive back coach by trade, and he's done an outstanding job with them. So they come here pretty skill set as far as everything, all the goings on. Everybody's treated separately and equally, and we make decisions on people. Kalen's a great young man, and prior to committing, he sent me a picture of him when he was in the 7th grade, of him in a Spartan jersey standing beside me in the 7th grade, talking about, dreams are going to come true. So, that was something he'd been dreaming about for a long time, obviously, and it's exciting when you see people's dreams come true.
He's another early enroll guy, is that
Early
right?
enroll.
And you said about 7, is that right?
We have 7.
And how do you, and just kind of as a broad overview with that, how does that work with those guys coming in with so many guys returning this next year? Because your seniors graduate, you're allowed to have 85 on scholarship at once. So our seniors are graduating, so we had the numbers to be able to put them in there. As far as early enrollees, I've always sort of left it up to the individual player if he's able to do it, first of all, from an academic standpoint. All these guys are excellent students. And then, I just think it takes a certain amount of discipline and maturity if you're going to come early, because you're going to get hit right in the face with things immediate. School, socially, football. There is no transition time like our freshmen usually get. So they're sort of thrown in there, and they've got to weather the storm a little bit. But, they come out of that storm, they're pretty good football players, and they've had an opportunity to at least set a foundation under them for the fall camp.
Mark,
Yeah.
I think it was back in August, Cass Tech played Pickerington Central. You had 2 commitments for Pickerington Central. You were trying to get him and some juniors and so forth. How unique was it to watch that film and to use that as evaluation, to see offer guys go against offer guys, or offer guys against maybe offer guys? Was that game unique this year in that way?
Yeah, it was, and it's not just those guys. Both those teams had a lot of players that are going to be recruited next year by major colleges, and then also were recruited this year or going to major colleges. So there was a lot of competition on that film, and actually our guys from Pick Central and Xavier actually told us, hey, you got to get Gervin. He's a great player. Help recruit him. Next guy up, Xavier Henderson. 4-star player, ranked as one of the top players in defensive backs in the nation. 2-time Columbus Dispatch Defensive Player of the Year. He's named Co-Defensive Player of the Year in the state of Ohio. In Big School Division, he's an early enrollee. He committed to us his junior year, in September of his junior year, and really stayed with us throughout the entire process. Came to camp, was phenomenal. Just big, physical, could really run, catch the football. Play wide out. He's played, gains 130 yards in the championship game playing tailback. Outstanding tackler. I think he had 11 picks as well. He really can play. I think he'll have an opportunity to play very early in his career here, and coming early will give him that foundation as I just talked about.
He committed like 15 months ago or so.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ever wavered. How strong was it for you guys, important was it for you guys to get Henderson and Gillison, a couple of four-star Ohio guys, right off the bat after coming off last year?
Well, it's sort of what I opened that whole press conference with, appreciated everybody's commitment to us and their trust in us as people. We had a tough year last year, we had other things going on in the off season, and they maintained their commitment. They maintained their belief in us as people. And it wasn't just about us as a football program, it was in us as people. And you just really appreciate that. And they were the cornerstone of our class because they were the earliest commitment, and people saw that, and I think gravitated to do likewise. But this class in its entirety has tremendous students in it, has great families in it, and have gotten along very well with each other throughout the process, and they've all been on campus so many times. Even Parks Kissinger, I think he's been here 3 or 4 times, all the way from California. So, but Xavier is an outstanding young man, outstanding player, again, state champion, and really the star of their football team in a lot of ways. Good. Chris Jackson, Lassiter High School, 6 foot, 185 pounds. Tremendous ball skills, excellent tackler, really run and jump. Plays a very high level of football down in Georgia at Lassiter. Both parents went to Michigan State. It was a dream of his to come to Michigan State for a long period of time. And when he came up in the spring and we were riding around and we'd offered him, and I was talking to him about, thinking that this would be a long process, and he turned to me and looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm going to come to Michigan State." I said, "You are?" So, and that was it. So, just like this morning, really no drama. This is where he wanted to be. This is the time period of his life he wanted to be at Michigan State, and he's an outstanding player. He could play front side safety, and he could also play corner. He's an extremely skilled player. He's been playing against excellent competition.
Chris, if I remember right, is a guy who has played basketball a lot longer than he's played football, hasn't really played football that long. Did you check out his basketball film at all, and did you see anything in that interested you?
Yeah. Excuse me. I saw a windmill dunk. Okay. He's got great jumping ability, and his high school coach said that they got him out for practice the last day of spring practice his 9th grade year for one day. And somehow they managed to convince him that his future was in football. He played football at a younger age, but his future was in football, and then he just started moving forward. But I think he's a great tackler, and he can do a lot of things exceptionally. But big jumper, can really run. These guys have run track as well. Davion Williams from Belleville High School. Extremely gifted athlete, very smooth, great jumper as well. Displayed excellent ball skills and hand-eye coordination in camp. Outstanding job in camp. Just running routes with people, right on their hip, accelerating, making picks, things of that nature. Really stood out, had a dominant performance. All-state basketball player. Really watched him performing in camp, in basketball camp as well a little bit, just walking over there. And but really, as much as anything, our basketball coaches sort of pointed us in that direction, because he was another guy that was sort of coming on as of late, and maybe his junior year, sophomore, junior year. I think he was thought more of as a basketball player early on, and then transitioned. But Jeremy Crowell has done an outstanding job with him. Since leaving Cass Tech, he's gone to be the head coach at Belleville, and he's got guys that can play, and he does a great job in the secondary as well. But I think another guy that can really jump, and people had great things to say about him.
Mark, on Davian, he has so many special characteristics. Can you look back over your career over a guy maybe he reminds you of?
Maybe Keyshawn Martin. Maybe Keyshawn Martin. There's some people that say they were teasing us walking in the door, when we went down on my visit to the school and home visit about playing wide receiver as well. But he has a great skill set, and he runs very, very well. He jumps. He has great ball skills. tackle. He's big, so he's long, and so it should be exciting to watch these guys. And just in closing with their class, I just think that the class in general, no drama today. The early enrollee aspect for us, for Michigan State, was a good thing because our guys had been committed for so long, and it gave us the chance to reaffirm that commitment from our standpoint, and then for them on their standpoint. So, there's no drama in it. We've got 20 guys signed, and we'll see what we do with our remaining opportunities, but it was a good thing for us.
Mark, when you look back at, when you kind of go back to Davion and some of the other guys you mentioned picking up football late, would you say that athleticism, just that raw athleticism, is a real highlight of this class? And does it stack up? Is it better or more so than you've seen in recent years?
Well, it's like I mentioned to somebody when I was doing an interview, they're all going to come now to a football team that's got good players. And we don't lose a lot, so we got good players. They're all going to have to compete with those players, and everybody here has the same accolades that they have. That's what sometimes I don't think people understand. They're going to places that, we've got some good players, and every place else has good players. So it's up to them now, intangibly, how do they handle work? How do they handle problems? How do they handle disappointment? How's their effort? What's their ability to learn a system? Can they stay healthy? All these different things, some tangible, some intangible, that they're going to have to do to raise their level of play. But I think it's exciting, and it's a great opportunity for them. And I will say this is an extremely athletic class, very skilled in a lot of ways, whether you're looking at the offensive lineman or at any position. They're very skilled. I think we have a quarterback. I think we have other guys that play multitude of positions. I think we've addressed our halfback, our tailback situation a little bit to strengthen it. We were only able to recruit one last year, and then we had to move a guy in there. So, really much, Connor Hayward, really much like Darius in a lot of ways. He's been very successful thus far. So, all these things are in order, and it's up to them to get to work and for us to get to work and find a place for them to play. But again, I go back to what I said, a lot of times you don't see the fruits of your labor until a year and a half into their program. You see them come as redshirt freshmen or start to play as sophomores even. That's when you finally figure out, hey, this is who this guy is.
I want to ask you about expectations. In your first 11 years, this one was the outlier where so many true freshmen played. But as we continued to talk with these guys, they kept mentioning, boy, 13 guys have played, like their expectation is 13 can out of this class. Do you have to temper that a little bit? Because last year was the exception, not the rule.
Well, I don't want to temper that because we're going to provide competition. And I can tell you that athletically, when you look at them athletically, again, what I just said, they measure up pretty well. Now, that's when they're playing against their guys. If they come in here, they got to measure up athletically to these guys here, and then they have to be able to do the things, the learning and staying healthy and pushing through issues. So that's all a part of it too. But I think we can get them there.
Coach, you said you had a number of players that you had to turn away in order to hold spots for a couple of other guys. What does that say about the interest of players in this program as well as the program's prestige, especially after a year like 3-9?
Yeah, as the season progressed, we weren't a 3-9 team anymore. We were a 9-3 team, or we were a 7-2, or along the way as we hit November, when so many of the different things started happening on the recruiting landscape, we were 82 or something like that. So there was a lot of interest. We've climbed back in the top 20, which is where we should be, and a lot of good things have happened. When you look at our you ask why these things have happened, again, I'm asking that. You've had great leadership administratively. Mark Hollis has done a great job. Luann Simon has done a great job just staying the course, just being steady. And our coaches, and what they've been able to accomplish and gone through, be able to correct situations, all these things, it's all involved and all interwoven to be successful.
I got two, one at a time. Do you like the early signing, and does it allow you and your staff to, the A's in the barn, now you go to the bowl game in the off season? Do you like this?
I do like it. I like it because it gives you an opportunity to say, we're committed to this individual. If you're not, then you better pull out early so they have opportunities. You don't pull out late. And then it also does that for the player. If they're going to pull, if they don't sign today, they're not committed, or they have an issue. They may have an issue, or they may not just have their mind made up. Maybe they're committed, but they're not. Their mind really isn't made up. So there's a lot that goes into this. But from my standpoint, from our standpoint here at Michigan State, it works. It worked this year. Does it work every year? You know, it just depends on the individual you're recruiting and the time frame. And maybe the time frame changes a little bit because the recruiting clock is going to change this year. But for last year, the way things went down and everything with all the commitments in the summer, which has traditionally happened here probably in the last 5 or 6 years, it worked for us. And it works for this class, and I'm really excited about it. Hey, work's never done. We'll start focusing on 2019 and finishing out this class. But I feel like we have the basis and the foundation of the class, and it's pretty much all squared away.
Basketball and football are different animals, but we got more numbers here. But Tom Izzo's recruiting theory has always been, I want people that are dying to be here. Yeah. You like that? You go by that?
Yeah, we have. We traditionally have recruited guys. You know, we're in Georgia some, we're in Florida a little bit, not as much, or Georgia, Texas some, but predominantly we're in the Midwest. You know, we're in Chicago and Michigan and Ohio and Pennsylvania some. And you're recruiting players that you've seen in camp, you're recruiting players that you've seen play personally, that have been on campus and you've got to know a little bit. And I think there's an advantage to doing that, and there's also an advantage for them having their families relatively close to here because they have support and they can see them play. So that's what we've traditionally done. You get the best player in Michigan or the best player in Ohio, by somebody's standards, you're getting good players. And now what we have to do is develop them, and that's now. And we've done a nice job developing our players here, and you know, we're represented in the NFL, and you know, we've represented this conference with Big Ten championships, and that's not because we're just great coaches, it's because we've had good players here. And the recruiting is the basis of that. But the difference between a 3-star and a 4-star and a 5-star, there's a little extra effort, a little bit more development. But you can't say that Doc Quesdenar wasn't a 5-star player, and he came here as a 2-star. Or Le'Veon Bell isn't a 5-star player. You just can't say that. Or Kirk Cousins isn't a 5-star player. So it's up to them what they do when they get here. And so that's what's exciting about the day. You know, I've talked to our players on the phone, you know, our committed guys, and I think I said one thing to every one of them. It's the end of one process, and it's the beginning of another. And what they do with that new process is really up to them.
Kind of wanted to touch on the new process for you guys as coaches. And do you have to sell these guys on signing early, or does that aspect change with the early signing date? How much of it is on them? How much of it is on you guys to let them make?
I think it's on both of us, but I didn't have to sell anybody on that. I knew that if they were committed, they were signing. I mean, it was sort of was a foregone conclusion. They were going to sign on the 20th if they were committed. If they weren't committed, then they wouldn't sign on the 20th. If we weren't committed to them, then we wouldn't sign them on the 20th. And so it was sort of a two-way street. And I think the expectations are pretty clear. It's to try and sweep everything away and clean it up, to clean recruiting up, to take it from a sense of people dropping players in January or December, from a sense of players decommitting from the universities, you know, 2 days beforehand when they've so-called been committed. I think they were just trying to clean it up and just accelerate the process a little bit. And so, you know, that's what's probably happened. For Michigan State, it was a good thing. I can't speak for other programs, but for Michigan State, it was a good thing this year, and it allows us to sort of refocus on our needs, our current needs, and our future needs, and our future team. It allows us to focus not just on those recruiting aspects, but our current team as well.
Real quick, did you expect anything more in the next 2 days?
No, I don't. I think it's a longer process now. The guys that are still left out there will sign in February, and we'll recruit those as such.
I wanted to ask you about the rule change allowing earlier official visits in the spring. Do you think that's a good thing to allow kids who might not have the means to get up here to get here earlier, or does that maybe speed up the recruiting process a little too much?
You know, I don't have an answer for that one right now, so I have to experience that as we go through it, but it does allow people to come up on campus, but, you know, I just don't know how that's all going to sort out. I don't really see that as a way to make it earlier commitments. I think people got to get on campus once or twice, but who knows? You know, that's a new one on me. But, you know, we've just experienced this, and right now this was a positive for us, at least this year. We'll see how it shakes out next year.
The 13 true freshmen you played this year, how much of that is a selling point when you go out and recruit these kids to, you know, there's the proof that if you're the best guy you got, you're going to get a chance to play?
Yeah, I think Coach Barnett has it in his meeting room written on the board or someplace. I'm sure many of our other coaches do too. Best players play. And I will say this, we're always trying to get better. I mean, that's the nature of it. You're always trying to take one step further. If you can win 9 games, you want to win 10, as evidenced by this year. If you can win 10, you want to win 11. When we won 12, we should have won 13. So you're always trying to do that, and I think that starts within your program. So we're always going to try and recruit to a higher level and try and keep taking steps. And I think this class did that, but their challenges await them as they come here.
Mark, you mentioned the photo with Kaelon when you were 7 years old. You,
7th grade.
7th grade. For some of these guys, they probably remember you for so long now, especially the guys in the state. Do you sense that as kind of as an advantage for you? I mean, these guys can think back, you know, to when they were middle school and you were still a coach here.
Yeah, Michigan State's been pretty good over the last 10 years. And we've been, you know, we've been in the top 20 quite often. We played in big bowl games, played on a national stage, won championships, been in the playoffs. We've done a lot of different things, and I think a lot of the young people in the Midwest and in Michigan in particular, you know, they see that, they're making decisions at that point in time where they have, you know, I say it all the time, you know, which direction you're going. You know, you got choices to make early on in your life in this state, there's no question.
All right, we have the assistant coaches here, so we're going to